and welcome to the Anyone Can Farm live chat Thursday night edition. We set this night aside to do interviews with people who are new to homesteading or old to homesteading or doing something that seems to fit in with the homesteading lifestyle. And hopefully there'll be some information here that's usable to the viewing audience. So I'd like to welcome, without further ado, Teresa Renkewitz. How is that pronounced?
Renkewitz.
Renkewitz.
Nobody ever right. Renkewitz.
Renkewitz.
Red cabbage is the way we taught our kids.
Okay. I grew up with a kid by the name of Tomkevich. His first name was
Close.
Tommy Tomkevich. Yep. No joke.
The answer to about
Both
anything.
of his parents were both of his parents were deaf.
Oh.
No kidding. Yep. And that's why they named him Tommy Tomkevich. All right. Well, great. Teresa is doing some pretty interesting things. She's a neighbor of mine, actually, not too far up the road. And I think I met you for the first time probably 2 years ago. I was over at Robert Podbelski's house, and I met you and your husband. And then we met up again during chicken butchering season when you showed up here with some chickens. So without further ado, if you don't mind telling us a little bit of your story, how you got here, what you guys are doing now, how you wound up back home, and then we can talk a little bit about the future, where you're going and how you kind of fit in with this tribe.
Okay.
Oh, and
well, my husband.
Can I interrupt you just real quick? I want to let our viewing audience know that the chat is on, and I think you're going to find Teresa's story interesting. And if you want to ask some questions, by all means, fire them out there. Okay, floor is yours.
Well, my husband and I are Michigan natives, so I was born and raised in Houghton Lake, and we left in our 20s, and we headed down to Florida to spread our wings and live by ourselves in the sunshine, and that was great for a while. While I was in Florida, we spent about 15 years there. I ended up getting very sick. After I had my youngest daughter, I just started coming down with the oddest illnesses. Just things that doctors didn't know what was going on, and I was getting sicker and sicker, a lot of joint pain, a lot of pain in general. And I really got to a point at that time, I was about 32 years old, and I was operating more like a 90-year-old at that point. I couldn't, at work, people would have to help me get out of chairs because my knees and my hips would just completely lock after sitting for a meeting. My hair was falling out. My eyebrows fell out. I mean, it was just, I was a mess. And my sister came down and she was very concerned. And so she found a program that she took me to in Miami. And we spent some time in this program. And what I learned was essentially my food was killing me. And I didn't realize it. I grew up in a restaurant, a mom and pop shop. And, we did fast, service. So it was French fries and chicken strips. And, I grew up on that food and drinking pop all day long. And I had carried that through my life. And I realized that it was creating a problem. I was formally diagnosed with lupus. And so at this program, they took control of my diet and exercise and my water and everything. And what happened is I came back a completely better person in a matter of a week. Just a huge difference. And so I started this journey, researching my food, researching what was going on. And I found that what we're consuming is not good for us a lot of the time. So I started on this path of changing what we were eating and doing things differently. And in that journey, we ran into the whole microgreens thing. I thought they were silly when I first saw them. I thought people were eating grass. And that's one of the things that people say to me a lot. And we just started growing them. Then I started growing them for my animals and eating them myself. And when we moved back home, I was growing for a few friends around here, and everybody said, you should grow these for us. You should grow these for us. So we tried it, and we started growing on a bigger level, and it worked. So we're growing microgreens now for people in northern Michigan.
Okay. Well, that happened relatively quickly then, didn't it?
It really did. It was a matter of a couple years. We started the business in 2021, so we were 2 years January this year that we've been in business. But I think people quickly see the benefits of them, and then quickly see, how much they add to your diet. And now kind of what I'm focusing on is helping people understand that this is so simple for you to do. I don't have to grow them for you. I love growing them for you, but these are simple things that you can do. And when we live through these harsh Michigan weather, and we don't have access to good produce all winter long, it's a great way to get those vegetables, back into your diet.
Okay. So for our viewing audience, can you define microgreens for us?
Sure. So they're the same. Everybody asks, is it the same thing as the big plant? Yes, I am growing the big plants. I'm just growing them small. Now, the reason that we use a little bit of a different seed is because you want to make sure, first of all, that you have a really, really good germination rate, and that you want to make sure that they're a little more heavily tested for pathogens, because we're planting so densely that you can really have problems with that if not. But other than that, the seed is the same. If I put that seed out in my front yard, I am going to grow a whole radish. I'm going to grow, a whole head of broccoli. It's just we cut them off when they're at what we call first sign of true leaf. So when they're just getting ready to be that big plant, that's where we cut them. And you can see I have some growing behind me here.
All right.
These are pretty close to harvest. But so we cut them off there. And what that does is that plant is getting ready. It's preparing to become that big plant that it's eventually going to become. And when you capture that in that stage of life, all the nutrients and all the flavors are in that plant. And so when you cut them off small like that, you're capturing all of that. So you end up with, up to 40 times the amount of nutrients as a mature plant. So, if you like a handful of broccoli microgreens, you would eat 5 bowls of broccoli to get that same nutritional value.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
Okay, this is really interesting. I think a lot of people who are kind of looking for something to do they're gonna sit up straight in their chairs to hear everything that you have to say about. But before we go any further, how did you get a handle on your health? What was the fix, and where did that go? Because that's part of the equation.
The biggest thing was cutting all the processed foods. Processed foods was the biggest problem in my life, and I just didn't understand it. I was a mom. I had young kids, and I was just trying to throw food at them and make it out the door every morning to work. And so the processed food was one of the biggest things that once I removed that, this journey into getting the clean food has been fairly new. This is something over the last 5 years that I've started really going at, and that's looking for clean meat and clean vegetables, because as you know, our meat source is completely contaminated if you're buying from the grocery store. And then, even the vegetables that come out of the grocery store, their nutritional value is just, you're essentially eating a dead plant by the time it gets to, your local grocery store from California or Argentina or wherever it's coming from. Yeah. So that's kind of been the new trend that I've been on, but really early on, it was cutting out process, moving back to plants. And then for a while there, I kind of minimized meat because I didn't have access to a good meat source. Now that I have access to that, that's working its way right back in my diet, because I have, now I can grow my own because I have the farm and the space to do that. So really it was that. And then, the other thing is that it's something that never gets enough credit is water, getting water. People don't drink water. And that really helped, tremendously. So it was really the processed foods was when I saw the turn. And then we kind of gotten into medicinal herbs and stuff as well. So I do some herbal teas and things like that we kind of worked into, my routine that really, got me back on the path to health. So I ended up getting rid of at one point I was on about 13 prescriptions. I take nothing now.
Wow, that's a lot of prescriptions.
Yeah.
That's a lot. And that's pretty widespread in the United States right now, isn't it?
It is. It's sad because a lot of it, it's just there's some simple fixes. There really are some simple fixes. And if people just understood, and kind of got back, I don't know, just got back home to growing your own stuff, it makes a difference. It makes a really big difference.
There's going to be people in the audience that are probably going to want to know, like, if they want to get off their prescriptions, how you did it. Was it a personal choice, or did you do it with the help of a doctor, or did you just throw them all in the can, or what?
Well, at first, my answer was to throw them all in the can when I started realizing how how damaging they were. So, but that's not logical, and especially if you're chronically ill, it is not logical to just get off all of your prescriptions. So, I actually work in conjunction with a regular Western medicine doctor that understood my philosophy and understood the direction I wanted to go in. So that took some time to find, because those doctors are not at our fingertips, unfortunately. And so it was a doctor that understood that path, and then a naturopath that was kind of helping me along. So between the two of them, it was just kind of, one thing at a time. I could back off on it because I was starting to get better. So even the things like the anti-inflammatories that I was taking, over time, when you start realizing, okay, well, I'm just going to skip a day and see how it goes. Oh, I don't need that anti-inflammatory anymore. So, it was a process. It took time, but it can be done.
And so how long have you been clean now?
It started, I was really sick in 2010, 11, 12, I think. And then I think around 2014 is where my sister and I went to that program. And so the whole journey kind of began then. So I'm almost, it's 9 years this year. Yeah.
It's going to say at first, like, whoa, that's not too long ago, but it is. We're in.
It did not seem like it, honestly, but yeah, it's almost 9 years now that I've been, and you keep learning. It's a journey, and that's what I keep telling people, is that there's no magic fix. So even these greens are great, and I love growing them and I love helping people, but it's not a magic fix. There's not a green I can give you that'll make you better. You got to change your life.
Yeah, it's a piece of the puzzle.
Yes,
isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a facet of the operation. I was listening to a podcast yesterday about health and about what we were created to be, and people believe that we're created by a being that is perfect, but yet we have all this disease in our midst. And this commentator said that, well, we weren't created to get sick. It's man that creates sickness and environmental conditions that get you sick and injured and things. And then man swoops in and says, well, I got the fix right here. You were created flawed, and without medicine, you're going to be flawed. Right. But I had a friend back in Montana, and he says, well, I've never been to a doctor. I mean, they lived out in the boonies. And I thought, well, that's irresponsible not going to a doctor. But the more I think about it, if we just take care of what we're supposed to do and you're not sick, why would you go to the doctor?
Exactly. Well, the body's designed to heal. So that's what we're missing, is our bodies were designed to heal themselves. So you get a cut, and what does your body do? It goes to work, it fixes it. And that's what and that was one of the things, and that was kind of in the counseling end of it, that I had to accept the fact that I created the disease in my body. I created an environment within my body that allowed it to create disease. And that's a real tough pill for some people to swallow, when you have to say, this isn't happening to me. I've done this to myself. I've created this environment within my body that creates disease. And so it's your job to create a different environment that doesn't create disease. And that can take time, and bodies do malfunction. I'm not, not everything can be fixed, but there's such a good majority that could be fixed that we could take this whole health crisis that we're in, and it could just be, a blip in the system rather than what it is today,
Yeah. Oh, well, that's good. I'm glad you've maintained your health. And so are you empty nesters now? Are your kids out?
No, I still have my youngest one is 13. So I still have one left at home, but then we have some grandchildren too. So it's just a continual process.
Right. That's good. Yeah, I'm glad for grandchildren, because I don't think we want to be empty nesters. I don't think we want to have nobody around. I like it when people are around.
I don't know what we would do. Don't know what we would do.
That's kind of another part of this this quest that we're on. And I think in a lot of ways, when you regain your health and you realize that it was in your hands to do that, then you kind of start looking at it like, well, what else can I do by myself, by just observing things from a different point of view? And like I'm a baby boomer. I'm at the end of the line. I've got sisters that are a lot older than me. And my parents would buy, when we graduated from high school, they would buy us luggage. It's like they were, get out of here. Go to California. It's good out there. But now we're kind of feeling like, no, we kind of want to build this clan right around us of our own people that have similar attitudes towards, having a healthy and fun and intriguing lifestyle. So that's part of it too. We've looked into the whole generational wealth thing, and then the tribe too of our extended family. All right, so you needed good food, so you got into growing microgreens, and you came to Michigan, and it seemed like something to do. So could you explain to us your process of getting land and how you got yourself situated and all that stuff?
Well, we did it the absolute hardest way possible. So we bought one chunk of just woods, because we thought at the time it was such a great idea to cut every tree down by ourselves. So you can imagine how long that lasted.
Yeah, you'd be so proud of yourself.
Working on it. Well, it was completely wooded, and we probably have few acres now cleared. We've gotten a house on it now. Mind you, Mark, we did this in the middle of COVID. And so what was, great dreams and aspirations, and quickly got slapped with reality, because you couldn't get lumber for a while. Our prices were quadrupling, and we were trying to buy a house. And so we had to get really super creative with the way we were doing it. And it's taking us a lot longer. But part of it is, we're on this, we came to do this. Another, piece of this whole thing is stress. And, we wanted to do things debt free. And so it's going to be a long, slow road, but it's ours, and nobody can take it from us. And so, we've got the house up. We're still working on it. So there's still some plywood on some floors, and, we got some animal shelters up that were good, but now next spring, it's now after you spend some time there, you start figuring out where you want things. And we realized, we really didn't even know what direction was north when we showed up at our property. And so we were just placing things, and now it's like, okay, things need to make sense. And, we need to have animals near the water source and near the electricity source. And so right now that's what we're doing, is we're kind of working on moving those things around and, getting things situated. But it was a completely wooded lot 2.5 years ago. So it's come a long way, but it still has a long way to go.
How many acres are you working with?
We have 10 acres right now. So we would hopefully like to there's a couple 10s around us that maybe one day will come up for sale, but 10's about what we want to work with anyway. So we're getting older, not younger.
Yeah, that is a lot of land when you
Yep.
step back and look at it. If you had to mow 10 acres, that's a lot of walking. It
It really
is.
is. It's a good walk.
Yeah. That we have a field that happens to be a 20-acre field, right? And when I stand back and I look at it, I think, wow, 20 acres is really big. It's a lot bigger than you think.
Right. Right.
You know, a lot of people think that in order to successfully homestead that they need a large acreage, and I don't believe that to be true. I think you can really do a lot on small acreage.
Well, honestly, before we purchased the land, I was doing a lot of research and trying to figure out, and our goal initially was just to be self-sufficient. So, and that's still my goal, is to be self-sufficient, to grow and have enough food for us to consume. And when we were looking at it, I figured out then, that we could do it on 5 acres. So, this was actually double what I thought I needed to just be able to provide for our family. So, I'm happy with it. And like I said, the more that's the thing you have to realize is the more you have, the more it is to take care of. And, we were trying to be logical about how much would really serve us, and what we needed.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, if you have hay ground, then you're obligated to cut hay off of it. If you don't, then you're buying hay. But either way, it does cost, and it's
right.
You're taking nutrients from this place and putting them on this place. So
right.
I don't know. I think that if I was going to do it over again, I'd be looking at around 20 acres. That's what I'd be looking for. Keep your taxes low. Keep your costs very low. But I wound up getting what I got, so that's what I got. And
right
now that I am cutting hay, if I get more ground that's hay ground, well, then I have to have more cows to feed the hay to.
Right.
So it's just
right.
working along that way. All right. So tell us about tell us about livestock, what you're tackling with your livestock for your homesteading operation.
Right now we're just really staying small scale. So it's mainly just the small animals that we are working with. And that's until we get more ground cleared. So I've got, we're raising chickens, and then we do some small breed pigs that I really enjoy. They're friendly and kind of cool. So we're doing those for meat. My daughter also does rabbits. And so we're working our way now into the meat for rabbits. So she's been kind of practicing and learning, and she's 13 going on 35. I think sometimes she's more responsible than I am. So she's got that whole thing down, and she's working on her stock. And I think after this winter, we're going to have a really good rabbit meat stock. And then we do turkeys seasonally and meat chickens. I've got my hens all the time, so I always have some eggs. Just that. And like I said, eventually we're looking into maybe, just a little bit of cattle once we can get some land cleared. So right now we have something worked out with my husband's uncle, and so we work with him and do that way. So I'm still getting my own stuff grown, but moving it all, getting it all here is when we moved here, we thought that, you could just do it all, and some exhaustion that set in real quick, and you figure out it's a one step at a time process. So even though you want to have it all, it takes time. It takes, experience. That's one big thing, is that I see people kind of jump in, and I'm a researcher, so I'm always, even before I let my daughter buy one rabbit, I read about everything that I could come up with to understand, how to take care of them before, because each animal has its needs, and each animal demands of your time. And sometimes you don't think about that on the front end of things, that each one of them needs you, and that's taken from everything. And then I've got the microgreens growing on top of that. So I had to kind of look at what's important. So for right now, probably for the next couple of years, we'll stay with small animals and then working our way towards, some adding to the farm for sure. So.
Okay, good. Yeah. It seems to me like the microgreens, some of them would be useful for the rabbits. Seems like it.
Absolutely. Actually, that's what you're looking at behind me here. And let me tell you, so we had this little snafu this season with the seed. So seed is something that's really difficult right now. It goes in and out of stock, and I don't know, we're just seeing stuff in this world that we haven't seen before. So sometimes I have trouble getting the seeds that I'm very used to getting. And what I'm growing for my animals, I couldn't get for a short amount of time. And so we had to go over to some grain for a little while because, they need to eat. And this is one of their primary food source is my microgreens. And what's funny is that my layers quit laying eggs when I took them over to grain. And then we put them back on the microgreens and boom, the whole supply chain opened back up. So it's funny, how important those are to them. And that's something I see people doing this a lot with feed is so expensive. I don't know. It's just so expensive. And this stuff, some of these trays I can grow for maybe $1 a tray. And, if you look at it, that's a good sized meal for a chicken or, the pigs eat them and the rabbits eat them. Everybody eats them. So, and it's really a cost effective way. And I'll tell you what, it's like, you can, your animals and you can see it in their eyes when you come blistery, snowy, white covered day and down in green in the middle of their pen. It's like Christmas. To them, they're excited to see it. So and it's just such it has such added value. And up here, a lot of times your animals aren't getting that because you just don't have access to it.
Yeah, we probably feed way more grain than we should be. We probably do. Okay, so this is where we're getting into the heart of this because now all of a sudden I'm getting kind of thinking I need to do this too. And I understand you're going to be coming to one of our field days to instruct on this. Looking forward to that. I'll be there. Yeah. I'll definitely be there. I went to a small farms conference out in California one time years ago, and I wound up I was speaking there, but I wound up sitting in on a class, and it's just like I picked one and walked in and sat down and waited, and they were talking about growing forages in trays. And the guy had a slideshow that was really good, had these beautiful trays, and I believe it was in a dark place. I think his thing was dark, I think. But they would put the seed down, get the seed wet, and then it would sprout, and they would create what they called biscuits, so they pull these big chunks out and it looked like carpet, and then they'd throw it to all their animals, cattle, pigs, chickens, everybody would eat it. So how could somebody utilize this for their chicken crop, let's say? How could we do this?
That's one of the easiest things. And see, I even use the leftover trays for the chickens as well. We grow them more trays in the winter when they can't free range and they don't have access to all of that. But in the summer they have that. But we grow them more that. But see, with the chickens, one of the best things for the chickens that is really cheap is fodder. You can grow fodder fairly easily, and it grows like let me grab this tray for you. What happens with this is like you were talking about, and I'll see if I can get it up. I'll pull a little bit here, but it has this really intricate root system, and this comes out of here, and then actually it's the wrong time of day for it, but let me see if I can get you to see that. Can you see how that's coming out of there?
Yeah,
and so it's
roots.
Basically, yep, it's the roots create like, and I usually do that in the morning. There's reasons for that because it'll come out of there easier. But it's like a carpet. And what we do is we pull all of these carpets. So they're, it's a 10 by 20 tray. We pull all of these carpets out and we literally just line the outside of their cage. Like they have grass. It's like sod. So it's like we line them with some fresh green grass every day, and you just line that inside of their pen, and they're walking on it and they're pecking at it. And what's so amazing is to watch them, they just dig through that until there's nothing left but that soil. When they're done, there's nothing left. And it doesn't even matter, like that plant that I just showed you, this one's a pretty hardy plant, but a lot of the microgreens are super, super fine, and they get even just those little things, and what's left is just the soil. And then the soil, it composts into their pen, and it works great. But for chickens, it's fantastic, and they love it, and they actually kind of almost play in it. You have to see them. The pigs do too. Yeah. When you lay it out, like I said, it's Christmas to them because it's freezing cold winter. There's no worms. There's nothing for them to have fun with. They're almost kind of rolling in it sometimes and playing with it, and they scratch at it because it's fun for them. So we use a lot of that. Fodder's really good. You can grow fodder, you can grow rye, you can grow corn. All of those things you can sprout out to that microgreens and put those out for your animals.
So those ones that you had right there, what seed was that?
That's a corn variety. So it's a corn variety. Yeah. Actually, what's funny about this is you were talking about growing in the dark, and a lot of people who grow it to eat it for consumption, they grow corn in the dark, because what happens is it never gets green. It stays that yellow color and it loses its bitterness. In this form, it's very, very bitter. And so I don't mind so much because the chickens don't care. They can't taste it. So we grow it and we just let it grow green this time. But I ended up having quite a bit of excess seed left because I had bought some for growing for consumption that I didn't need anymore. And that's why, this seed that ends up being for the animals now, because now I don't have to waste it. So I've probably got enough to grow them quite a bit for the winter.
So is all of your microgreens grown in soil?
They are. And that's a really important thing to me. There are a lot of different ways to grow. And I'm probably going to have some people arguing with me. So really the accepted way is everybody wants to grow hydroponically. Everybody wants to grow everything hydroponically because it's so easy. And here's the thing. You can't get nutrients from water. And so when you grow hydroponically, the only nutrients your plants are getting is everything that you add to that water. So most of them come with fertilizers, or you have to add to the water because the water has no nutrients. I am just a down home, God made this earth the right way kind of girl. And first of all, I started growing in soil because of flavor. I have a really sensitive palate, and I could tell the difference between a hydroponically grown and a soil grown vegetable. And I don't know, you can tell the difference. You grow these big, beautiful vegetables when you're growing hydroponically. They're gorgeous, and hands down, they look great on a shelf in a grocery store. However, when you taste them, there's a difference in the taste. And I actually did some trials early on where I took some that I had grown hydroponically and some that I had grown in soil. And I gave them out to my friends, and I said, just try the two and tell me which one that you like. Every single person came back with the soil. It tasted better. It was a better plant. So I've just translated that over to my animals as well, because to me, that taste means something. And, you just, like I said, God made dirt, and dirt's good. And plants are intended to grow in dirt. And so I won't give it up. The cost of soil is outrageous. And it's just something I won't give up. I'm not going to go to hydroponics. It's hands down. It's a quality thing to me. And it's really important to me to grow in soil for both me and for my animals. Cost is a secondary, issue for me. It's not the primary concern. So I think you're getting all your nutrients that way. So
that really is music to my ears, because when you do a process, if you do it right, you might lose money on it, but are we working for money, or are we working for our work?
Exactly.
I've found that when you come across people that have a process that they're getting excited about, and they're really into it, it's the work that they're excited about, not so much like we haven't even gotten into, well, what do they cost when you sell them? You're excited just about the whole process of it. And that, me too.
Yeah.
Like I could
Yeah.
see how we could fit this in with the chicken operation because, I would really like it if my chickens were laying full bore right now, but I'm not interested in putting a heat lamp in there for them. Maybe
No, and
some
I don't
lighting,
use any
but
heat. I don't use any heat. No, I don't, because I don't believe in pushing them in any way that they weren't intended to be pushed. So I
Okay.
let them rest some, and it's not quite as great as summer. Summer's always the best, but there is a definite difference from when they're eating those microgreens and when they're not. There's a definite difference and it was an accident that I discovered it. And I was like, wait a minute, that's what's going on here. As soon as we got back on the microgreens, the eggs started coming again. So, and I mean, the difference is, I have 30 chickens and we're talking 1 or 2 eggs a day to 8 or 10 eggs a day. That's a difference.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
So
I think we've got 75 to 100, and the other day we had 25.
Yeah.
But it's the warm temperatures, and I'm really babying them now, and I'm finding out what good little workers they are for me. And also, I built a new chicken house, and I built it on concrete. And when I did that, I thought, now I'm going to be able to harvest their manure out of here, because they put out a lot of manure. They turn, all their feed into manure. And I'm big into creating soils too. So I do a lot of composting, and boy, I bet you I could take my compost and put it out on, well, I've got a grow light here that one of our faithful listeners sent to me, and I used it and it made stuff grow. But I kind of was thinking along the lines of, okay, well, I would be using this in the spring to get my starts going, but I have a greenhouse. So why would I, but I could do microgreens under that, I suppose.
Now the light, my purpose, I've got quite a bit of money invested in the lighting, but I'm really dependent on consistent growth, and from just the days that it takes for one of the plants to grow, right down to how tall they grow and things like that. So it was really important for us to do lights. Now, do you have to do lights? No, they'll grow without lights. My daughter was growing alfalfa seed for the rabbits on the kitchen counter last winter without lights, and it still did grow. So do you need the lights? They do help, but they're not an absolute necessity. You don't, so they do help. And if you can get a couple, even cheap ones, that'll help them grow a little bit. And the problem here is if we had just a little bit more sun in Michigan, you probably wouldn't need them as much. It's just, like these days right now are just so short. They're so short but you can use a shop light. A shop light can work. It doesn't have to be, I have a pretty extravagant setup here for really what doesn't need to be done at this level of extravagance. So, a lot of my measures are to make sure that I can fulfill my customer orders, but you can do this without that. You can do it with just a regular shop light. I know microgreen growers that are selling microgreens growing under shop lights. So it can be done. It's, it really requires very little investment. And if you get some of those hardier things that just, these corn will grow and like I said, the corn will actually grow in the dark. So this corn will grow no matter what I do with it. It's one of those hardy things that grows. Mark, we had a question back here, and I just saw it. I think it kind of fell off the screen about growing fodder. And somebody said it was really difficult to keep the fodder system clean. And I wanted to address that too, because that's the way that I was used. It was Justin. It says Justin Z. I used to fodder growing it that way as well. And it's probably like a water system. And the other thing that I've found is that you almost always have to add something like bleach to the water to keep the mold down. I don't, most of the people I know that grow it that way, it's kind of a hydroponic grow. And you have to add something because the mold is just out of control. That's why I switched over to the soil. It makes the cleanup easier. You don't have the mold problem. And so everything I just put in soil now rather than doing that. And I'm guessing that maybe the experience that Justin had is that same kind of hydroponic grow. And it dirties up the containers, and you have a lot of mold growth, and you don't want that stuff in your house. You don't want mold growing on a regular basis. So
Right.
I kind of shied away from that. And I'm not a proponent. When I went through getting healthy, one of the things I also did was removed some of the toxins in my house. And so there's no chemicals in my house that really don't belong in it. And bleach is not one that I use very often at all. So that was something that if I don't even want it on my hands, I'm surely don't want it in the water that's growing the plants for my animals to eat that I'm going to eventually consume. So, but maybe that might be something helpful for him is trying to grow in the soil. So I think that's why, I'm really sold on that.
How do you think they would do in compost?
Well, you have to have good drainage, but you have to have good water retention. So it's a very fine balance.
Okay.
Actually, Bob provided us some compost soil at some point that we tried, and we found that they grew. It was very dense. It was very wet. And so the plants that are very susceptible to mold were molding in it. But we managed to get some of the like brassicas to grow in it. It wasn't producing the results that my soil was producing, but it did work. So we experimented with that. And I don't know how close your mix is to what he's working with, but we experimented with that back a little bit ago, and we decided against it because it just wasn't giving us the results that we needed. But it can work, and especially if you work with those plants that are not susceptible to mold.
So what do you use for your soil medium?
I'm using ProMix, which I have to purchase right now. That's one of my next things in life that I want to do is I want to work on creating my own soil. I just haven't gotten to that. And you have to have the space for that. And that's also a time thing, that takes some time to do. But right now I'm using ProMix is the main one that I use. So there's another farmer that I know real well that does pretty well with microgreens, and he's using one of Dairy Dew's products. That he purchases. He can purchase a lot at a time, and he's using that. So
yeah, the Dairy Dew is right down in Marion. It's just down the road from me. So it's not hard to come by. But it'd be interesting to find out because he uses all locally sourced stuff. So if you could find out what it is, like maybe you start with a compost and then you add some sand to it and maybe some perlite or things like that, and you make a pretty decent medium. That might be a niche that needs to be filled. We know quite a few people that are really good at things, and then they go and do consulting on other farms, and there's quite a need for that. So as I'm hearing this, I'm kind of asking myself, well, how come I'm not doing this? I really should be doing this. This seems like it seems like a lot of fun. I think I'd really kind of like it. So what you showed us there before, that corn, how many days was that?
This one was actually planted on the 28th of December. So I'm letting these grow a little bit longer than I would normally let them grow because this is an animal. Because here, let me give you some. This was on the 12th so what are we at, the 19th? So this is 7 days right here. So, and this is a plant that I would do for consumption. So this is radish. And this one is something that, we sell and we package. The corn we're letting grow a little bit extra because it's really nice when it gets really nice and bushy for them. And so we're just trying to get it a little bit longer. and let that grow just a little longer. And the thing is what you sacrifice when you cut the plant beyond its harvest day. So there's a point where that true leaf comes out, and we try to catch it just as that true leaf starts to poke out. So that it's kind of the stage in which you would, look at your sprouts, like your vegetable sprouts, and say, okay, they're starting to mature, where they're getting ready to go outside. We try to cut them right there. So the only thing really that they're losing when they continue to grow is they start losing some flavor. And so when it comes to the animals, they don't care about the flavor so much. So I can let that stuff grow a little bit longer and sit on the shelf. And then when it comes to the people, we get it right at peak, so we try to get it right when we see that true leaf come out.
Okay. Once you harvest, like those radishes right there, once you cut them off, will they regrow?
They will, but your plant, for the most part, most plants will regrow if you let it sit. But every time you're regrowing, you have to remember that these plants are exhausting all of the nutrients out of that soil. Most of it, they're sucking up everything they can just to get from germination to, where true leaf. And that's what a plant's job is to do, is to work really hard in those early stages to build its foundation. And so the soil it's less nutrient dense each and every time you cut and let it regrow. Lemon balm, for example, I don't do that for, my business anymore, but lemon balm will continue to grow. I think you can get 4 or 5 grows out of lemon balm. But each time you kind of lose a little bit of flavor, and you're losing some of the nutritional value too. So, but, from us, just those trays that are left over, which I have some of those too. I can show you one of those. They're left over, we'll take out and we throw into the animal pens. And the funniest thing is like the mustard seed is like, that's our joke, is like everything's like a mustard seed because our whole property is covered in mustard plants. I mean, it's just like the wind must pick these up and move them around. And since we've lived here and I grow mustard as a microgreen, they're all over. The other, just as fall was coming in, my husband bent over one day and just picked up something, in the middle of the yard, and he pulled it up and he goes, "What's this?" And he pulled real hard, and lo and behold, there was a whole radish. So these seeds are still growing, when we're throwing them out there. So I don't know if it's the ones that maybe we miss or who knows, but we've got plants all over our whole property that don't necessarily belong here from us throwing out the trays of microgreens.
Okay, so once you cut it for human consumption, then the roots that are still there, they would regrow, but you're taking that root mass and giving that to the animals?
Yes. So hold on, let me show you a tray real quick. I got one right outside the camera.
All right. Really interesting.
See, like this is the peas. And so, and you can see these have been sitting a few days. There's actually some little guys starting to come back up because they've been sitting. But I just take this just like it is. This is cut off from the animals. And this one will come out good. Look.
It's like a biscuit.
See how that... So that whole, we just kind of set it down into the pen right on the ground, so it's like I said, it's like giving them sod. Like I'm sodding their entire pen every day. So we just kind of take that whole mat out, and then we throw those down, and they run across them and, gobble them up. Even the pigs will root through it. So they kind of do their rooting, and they'll root through it. They'll, and nothing's left when they're done with it, but the soil. Usually, honestly, it's just the perlite that you can see in the pens that's left when they finish with what, they're doing their thing with it.
Mm-hmm. You can see that where that's not really that edible.
Right.
See where they do that. No. Yeah, my pigs would tear that up. They would eat that right down to nothing.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah.
Boy, every time we interview somebody, it's like, like a candy store. It's like, I got to do that. What I'm finding, longer I'm in this, I'm finding that a new process comes up. And I start to calculate like, wow, I have all the things I need to do this. I just need to bring these things together and make it happen.
Yeah.
Okay, so would you tell us what your top 5 or 6 crops are that you're growing, and if you don't mind, would you mind telling us what you sell these for and what kind of, if you don't mind?
Okay. Well, my top one, I do a salad mix. That seems to be one of our best sellers. So it's broccoli, kale, karobi, cabbage, and radish. And then we mix in some pea and some sunflower in that. Pea and sunflower are other ones. Those pea is a phenomenal plant. First of all, seed is cheap. And I actually buy a little bit of a higher end seed that I use for my customers, but you can really get some pretty cheap organic seed, pea, and pea it's a fantastic protein. It's a plant protein.
Yeah.
Which is good for for your animals. That's one that I would probably highly recommend either growing for yourself or growing for your livestock, or because the seed is just so economical. You don't have to get the higher end stuff. I'm looking for the stuff that turns out really pretty, but you don't have to get that. And the cost of it, I think you can get a 25 or 30 pound bag for $10. And that's quite a bit of pea seed for you. So that'll go a long way. So the salad, the pea, the sunflower is one of my favorites. Again, very versatile plant. Super easy to grow, hardy, not real susceptible to mold, and people love it. It has that nutty, that sunflower taste to it. So it's, it's a green, but it has a little bit of a hint, especially if you cut it right at the right time, of that nut flavor. And that's one of people's favorite. I do a little bit of radish. Another one is mustard. Like I said, that's a personal favorite, but I'm like a huge horseradish fan. So we cut these up. We do 3-ounce packages. We're pretty much exclusively 3-ounce packages to the customers. And they run from about $6 or $7 a package. Depending on which plant it is. So some are a little bit more than others. And then we have a few other specialty ones. We don't grow so much in the winter. We do more, in season when, we naturally eat more green in the summer. It's just, what we do as Michiganders. So there's a few more varieties that we usually grow, in the summer months that we don't grow all winter long. I'm kind of down to the basics in the winter. So.
Okay. So, can you give us an idea, like how big is your grow facility? How many of those totes do you have going, those trays?
So, well, in this room, I can fit 160 trays. So we have but that's at one time I have 160. And then in the summer months, we do one rotation basically a week. So I'm getting close to, it's just short of about 300 trays that I'm able to grow in this building. Okay. So right now down quite a bit. Like I said, we kind of close shop a little bit in the winter and get some rest. And so we're, more running 60, 80 trays right now. But we have the capacity to do that. Now, it gets a little bit hairy in here. So what we've done, and it's hard without being able to show you, we've converted we bought a shed and we converted the inside. When we first started out, first I just started growing in my house, and then we did an enclosed trailer. We converted the inside of an enclosed trailer. And we thought that was like our 5-year plan. In like 2 months, we had outgrown that trailer. So then we're growing in the garage, and we've got them everywhere that we could put a plant for a while. So then we did this building with the intention of doing the one rotation. And so that's kind of worked for us. But when you get that many plants in a room, what happens is you have a huge amount of moisture. So we have a constant struggle. So and essentially I've taken a greenhouse and I've closed it in. And so that creates its own struggles. But I mean, it works for us. It just requires a lot of cleaning and a lot of pulling moisture back out of the air. So pretty much every morning when you walk in and those plants are letting their water out, and you walk in here and it's thick as thieves in moisture until, our dehumidifiers and things get caught up. So That is
Okay.
something you got to, keep in mind, is that plants let off gases and plants let off moisture. And so if you get too many going in, that's why we have a separate building, because we don't want them in our living quarters. We have them completely separated from us. I mean, and even just, you have to keep fans on them and things like that too. So this building suits us. It's probably a little smaller in retrospect than I should have done, because it gets kind of hairy in here in the summer. So running 300 plants through is a little bit of an exercise, we'll say.
Okay.
But that's where we're at right now. So
that building has to be heated, correct?
it is. Yes, it's heated.
Okay.
Yeah. I have to have it temperature controlled.
What do you keep it at?
Right now we are sitting at about 70 degrees. Okay. 70 is pushing very hard in the winter months in here. So it's just letting that keep up. So we drop down probably 68. I try not to get below 68. The plants will do okay until you get down to the 40s. Actually about 40, your plant is preserved very well, but it's not going to grow. So you have to keep it on, you need to be up, I would say 55 degrees or higher in order to, be able to grow things. Okay. And then we try to keep it, we don't want it to go any higher than 72 degrees. So then it gets too hot and your plants are growing way too fast and it just creates a mess.
Okay. Wow. This is pretty intense. Okay. So
and there's a lot.
Yeah. So a tray, about how many ounces will a tray produce? Average.
Well, and it just depends on what you're growing. So your finer ones, you're not getting as much. It can be as little as 3 ounces, where a tray is a whole package. I have some plants that are that small, and they just, the way they grow. And then it's up to, like, a sunflower tray sometimes is like 15, 16 ounces. So those are, it just depends on what you're growing. So the hardier plants tend to grow a little bit better, longer, and you get quite a bit of yields. And then the finer plants, they're a little bit, you're getting a lot less yield, and they're a little bit more delicate to deal with too. So, it's like anything else. Like, when you're growing a regular garden, it's the same way. The plant's hardy itself. It's, it's easier to grow, and it's very similar to that. So it just depends. That's why I pick some of these, like things like peas, for the animals, is because the bang for your buck is really a lot better, for that. And I'm getting a lot more out of it for, when I'm trying to grow for the animals and stuff and keep it real cost effective.
Are you getting your seeds locally, or do you send away for
them? I send away for them. Reason is because, like I said, with what I am doing, we really have to have quality microgreen seed. So they have to have a really high germination rate. And then the pathogens is a really big problem, especially if you're going to be feeding them to people. Because, you're laying down seed. It's not like, when you're doing your sprouts, you're doing 2 or 3 seeds in there, maybe. I might have 1,000 seeds on this tray. And so they're growing really close together. And that creates an environment where things can grow. You have a mold problem. Mold is one of the most common problems with growing microgreens, that you have to kind of manage all of the time. And so that's why you really want to make sure that the seeds that you're getting are quality microgreen seeds. And unfortunately, that's just online right now. So I would love if somebody wants to come do some microgreen seeds up north. You've got a customer, and I'd love to see that. But as of right now, no.
Is it the same guys that we use, like Baker Creek and all those guys?
Yeah. Johnny's actually has a really nice selection.
Johnny's.
We use True Leaf Market as well. That's another one that has it. Mums out of Canada, they have some really nice seed. We use that. So there's a few of them out there. There's another one, Greenleaf, or something, that I've been reading a lot about, and people are having luck with it. So there's some pretty quality ones out there. Price wise, they're all pretty comparable. So
yeah, Jill gets it for us from Baker Creek, I think.
Yeah.
And
We
she
get
gets
some of our
peas.
garden seeds. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because we're big proponents of growing feeds for animals. I mean, I've had really good luck doing that. I've got fields that are dedicated just to the animals, and I grow, and their soil gets better every time we grow in it. Because they're
Absolutely.
manuring back and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
is there's a level of sustainability doing it this way, the way we're
Right.
doing it. Right. So it's
Right.
helping.
And like I told you, those plants popping up, they're not just in our yard, they're out with the animals too. So, and it is popping up full grown plants, and it's fun in the spring. We kind of go and we're like, oh, what's this? What's this? Like it's kind of like a treasure hunt of what's going to grow out there. But the animals get to enjoy that too, and that's just that's a freebie. There's no labor, there's nothing. That's a complete
Yeah.
freebie. They get a plant and it grows on its own. So
Yeah. And they harvest it for you.
they absolutely do.
And they'll eat the whole thing. That's what I like about the animals. They'll
Yeah.
definitely eat the whole thing. Well, we are into this an hour. Let's see. Is there anything I want to get your information out there in case there's people around that would like to do business with you, and also make it well known that you're coming on Tribe Day. Is that when you're coming to share
I
with
am.
us?
Yes.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah.
Um,
And I'm also
so
actually
Jill
doing a set of online classes now too, where I'm teaching some of this
give it to
stuff.
us.
So I've got that on my website. And teaching
Okay.
because that's kind of become my passion now is the teaching end of it. And like you said, I want to see people get away from the whole feed, some of that feed that we are feeding our animals, like we think we're doing something good and it's not good for them either. And I would love to see people do this. So I'm kind of taking on the teaching side. And I think that's going to be more of my focus this year is teaching people how to do this because it's so simple. It's so easy. And there's not a microgreen grower on every corner either. There are some, they're starting to pop up now. But it's something so simple, especially if it's just for your own consumption. Like you can do that really, really easily. And I just have a passion about teaching people to do that. I want to teach more people and equip them, to do this on their own. So those classes are online too.
That's right in line with what we're doing here at the Tribe. I'm really glad we came across you then. This is really needed.
Yeah.
There's a thought process out there, and I think it comes from the pit of hell. And it's a thought process that, well, I don't want to show anybody else what I'm doing because then they're going to be competing with me. And we do, let's say, pastured poultry here. Jill's down like 4 of them in the freezer. We sell everything we produce, and we teach people how to do it every single spring. And I don't think any of our customers have said, well, I'm going over to your competitor, because then there's just so the point I'm making is that there's tons of market out there for these products. And would you agree with me that
I'm totally not, and that's something that I've fought too. Like there's so much that can be. I just got off a phone call actually before I got hopped on here with you with a good friend of mine who owns another farm. And we are not going to be doing some of the things that we thought we were going to be doing this coming summer. And, he said to me, well, do you mind if I grow microgreens and bring them? I'm like, no, if you need help, call me. If you need a place to grow, let me know. I can help you. That's the kind of relationship that I'm looking for. And I've always been very upfront with the way I do this. And the truth of the matter is that growing on that level is not for everyone anyway. And there are some people that are going to take to it, but I'm just not this hold all my secrets close to my heart kind of person. I'm more share what I've learned and help other people grow. And, that to me, but like you said early on, you got to decide, are you in it for the money or, and it's not the money that I'm in it for. I'm in it to see people healthy. I'm in it to see people grow for themselves. I'm in it to see a change in the society that we so desperately need. Our health needs, our lives need, our kids need. So those are the reasons that I'm doing it. And that's why I'm not afraid to share. I'm hoping that this summer, we have a lot of construction going on around here, but I'm hoping we have things kind of tidied up around here enough that I can start welcoming people onto our farm and bring them into this grow building and teach them right here. Because I don't have any secrets to hide. It's all, I think we're all better if we share what we know, and we're all growing and getting better. And I'm with you, Mark. I don't think that, you're right. It is probably from the pits of hell that you've got to, you're worried about your competition. And I'm just not. It's not.
Yeah.
Life's too short for all of that.
It's an austerity mindset. And the antithesis to that is abundance. So like with chickens, they're leaving here just as quick as we can grow them. And we could never keep up with what people need. Never. And same thing with microgreens. I mean, people are consuming them. It's not like you warehouse them. They're consumed pretty quickly. So I don't think that anybody's going to really compete with you. And, my feeling has been, because I've had this happen. We've got Amish people around here, right? And I was doing pretty good with pastured poultry. And one of the Amish families said, well, you don't mind if we do poultry too, do you? And I said, it's free country. But they went right after my customer. And they nailed them, and they sold them to my customer cheaper. And it kind of bothered me. But what it did was it forced me to find other markets, and I found way better markets, more sustainable markets in people's homes. So, there's plenty of market out there for people. Absolutely. So I probably should look back through here and make sure we didn't miss any questions, because I told our faithful listeners that we would answer questions. You would answer questions.
Yeah, I saw that one. I caught the one.
Okay. Bear Up Farm is with us. I'm here in high altitude in Arizona and clearing out 40 acres for pasture. Fertilizers are expensive. Now we just have 50 laying hen, going to buy 200 more layers and move them behind the cows. Yeah, well, you're going to be putting some money out on those 200 layers now. I'm here to tell you. I did some checking around, and Meyer Hatcher selling ready-to-lay pullets for $15 last year, 15 or 17 right in there. This year, 25 for ready-to-lay pullets. So it would be a good thing if you have an incubator, load that puppy up. Our laying hens are still laying in the coop, and the temperature in the 30s and low 10s, no heat lamp at all. Yep, ours too, just not like in the spring. Changed the water twice a week in a 5-gallon bucket and cleaned each tray thoroughly. This is Justin talking about his. Okay, Bear Up Farm. People need to learn more about chicken and what to do. Chicken need to lay eggs. We have 50 Long Island Reds and laying close to 30, 50 eggs each day. Wow, you're a rich guy. I bet you
yeah. The new goals, right?
Yeah. If you can just keep your costs down. Okay, Abundant Living is saying Teresa's website is listed in the show description. Abundant Living is also saying Tribe Day is July 8th. You can grab your spots and campsites now. Teresa, do you know about Tribe Day? I'm sure Jill must have said something to you.
Yes, Jill filled me in. Yeah.
It's for those of you that don't know, it started out as just an impromptu, hey, we should just let people come on. It was actually Amy Stumpo's idea. And I was kind of like, yeah, okay. I don't mind if people come visit. And I think there was like 100 adults and children the first year. There was 100 of them. And it was a little bit more than we had expected. We didn't have the porta potties that we needed. And so the next year we planned ahead a little bit better, and we had the campground opened up. and we had 100 adults this last year and probably 50 kids. And there was some people that came, I won't mention any names, but they know who they are, that stayed here for 3 weeks, and we really enjoyed their company. But it was really fun when you get a bunch of people that are all into that type of thing. There's different flavors, different facets of it, but so much stuff to learn.
Well, that's
Jill's,
a testament to people need that. People want this, Mark. That's actually, you know, the success of that is a testament to that. That's people want to learn this, what we're doing. And, you know, it's really golden knowledge. It really is. It's knowledge that lasts for years. And that's what I'm excited about is you start passing on things that last to your kids. You know, knowledge like this is stuff that doesn't grow old and, you know, it doesn't go bad. So
it's a true legacy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm right with you on that. You know, the place where we live, we've got a 140-year-old barn, and it was a legacy from the guy that built this place.
Yeah.
And I think that's really neat. And I think we should be thinking along those lines. What am I passing to my kids that's going to really mean something? And if it's the know-how, how to do something that they can feed their family with, and, you know, the ripples in the pond turn into tidal waves after a while.
Yeah,
when we
exactly.
keep
Exactly.
Yeah. This was a great interview, Teresa. I really appreciate you coming on.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed it. Thank you for inviting me.
Great. Well, if you have a class up at your place, make sure somehow that I know about it, because I will be there. I'm very interested in this.
I will make sure that.
About this. Okay. Well, I'm going to let you go, and then we're going to talk about you behind your back. Okay,
all righty. Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
All right. You bet.
All righty.
You bet.
Good night.
Well, that was good. That was really good. To tell you the truth, I didn't know how interested I was going to be in microgreens. For some reason, I just didn't think of it as a very exciting thing. I think what turned me on was being able to feed it to my livestock, because that opens up a lot of doors, right? As with most processes that we talk about, it's a value-added process. You're taking a seed that has very little value and then sprouting the seed and organizing it and packaging it and sending it on, and it gains value just by sprouting and growing in a grow medium. So that's really neat. But then if you take it and you add it to a chicken and they turn it into eggs, then it's worth even more. So it's pretty neat. Well, this is really good. Teresa just lives a few miles up the road. Haven't been to their place. I really would like to go now. That sounds quite interesting. All right. Let's see. Wanted to pass a few things on to you guys. I see Andy's with us. Aren't you, Andy? No, I guess he isn't. Our midwinter meetup is quickly approaching. That's going to be February 4th. We're going to be talking about soils. I wonder if we couldn't get Teresa to come for that as a second speaker. I wonder. Maybe we can check with her on that. You heard what I said. I wonder. That would work very well. And if you guys don't know this, but Teresa can still hear me, right? The guy that's coming, Craig Schaff, I think he would have some real insight into this. You know, it's neat. The position that I'm in right now, you can connect people up, and boy, the sparks fly when people get together and they start really, they get really psyched. but Teresa's got a really good presentation. Excellent presentation. Yeah, Andy is with us. Andy's on Maltese. Andy, I was wondering if you got anywhere with that meetup down in Greenbow. All right, Teresa's saying her husband and her will be there. Very good. I'm glad to hear that. Glad to hear that. It's kind of neat because we collect people in our tribe. Our immediate tribe here, we've got some really dynamic people, and I think that, you know, if all of a sudden there's some massive die off, I think we'll do all right. We'll do all right. We got a good group. But I like what she was saying. I think I want to try that. I know I want to try that. I think that would be really cool. And I would just like to watch that happen in front of me. I got this grow light, and this grow light was given to me 2 years ago by Keith Sutton's brother, Jim. And he sent it to me, and he was all psyched and everything. And I set it up, and I sprouted some stuff, but it was too early. And but I could use that to do these microgreens. We could eat off of them, and what we don't eat, we can give to the pigs or the chickens. I think that would be really, really cool. And then the wheels are turning. How are we going to get a grow medium together? I wonder if we could do some sort of analysis on what Teresa is using and see if we could put something like that together here. Because I do a lot of compost. I do a lot of biochar. And I also have this outfit, Dairy Do, right down the road, where they aggregate all the raw products like the green sands and all these things. They aggregate that stuff, and you can just waltz in there and they'll sell you whatever you want, you know, because it's one of those things in the compost making business. You don't have to worry about somebody else taking business from you. There are so many people, and there's such a tremendous lack of nutrient in the soils now that we've created, sort of like Teresa's health issues. She has to face the fact that, hey, you created it, you know, you did it, but you can turn it around. Well, the same thing with our soils. We've created it with the use of petrochemical fertilizers, but we can turn it around. And what would really be cool, I think, is, let's say when the big farms completely fail, and then the land goes back up for sale and it's sold at a fair rate to people who want to farm an 80-acre chunk or a 40-acre chunk, they can bring that soil back. They can, because it is regenerative, just like our bodies. So it's not like all is lost. Industrial ag has destroyed the land. Temporarily, they have. It's sort of like what we do to our bodies if we're drinking Mountain Dews constantly and fried foods and stuff. But you can regain it. I thought that was, in Teresa's testimony, I thought that was a really interesting part of the testimony, was the problems. She faced them personally. And instead of just, well, give me a pill to fix it or cut something out of me or add something to me, luckily she learned what the root cause of it was. And, I think if we'd have just stuck with the food that we were given, instead of going to the processed foods that man has created, we wouldn't have all the disease and problems that we have. And, I'm not saying that the president should say, that's it, no more macaroni and cheese. No, I'm not saying that. We all need to just know that if we want to turn this around, we can. And then we kind of have a responsibility. If our friends want to learn how to do it, tell them. Same thing with our farming practices. I don't think we want to be shoving it down people's throat like everybody needs to do this. No, it's like, if you want to come with us, come on. But if you don't, go ahead. Macaroni and cheese, go golfing, drink Mountain Dew, all Dancing with the Stars, all that stuff. Go for it. Have a good time. All right. I am getting more and more appreciative of this community every time we get together. I'm really looking forward to Tribe Day. I think Midwinter Meetup is going to be a home run this year. People are primed. It's going to like be a step in the direction of, spring. It's coming. It's coming. I did a little video today because I was feeling it myself. Got up and looked outside, and it didn't look too good. And then I got outside, and it's raining and pretty cold and very overcast. And I was having a real tough time getting going this morning for a little bit until I had my polar plunge. And then I came out like, okay, it's time to make it happen. And I wound up getting a bunch of stuff done. Not my usual whirlwind, but I did pretty good today. I did all right. Okay, you guys, thanks a lot for coming by. Appreciate everybody. If you would give us a thumbs up and please share this with all your friends. That would really help us out. We want to expand this footprint if we can do that. And let me remind you that we have what's called the Tribe Plus. If you go to the Anyone Can Farm Tribe, no, the Anyone Can Farm Experience.com, the Anyone Can Farm Experience.com, and sign up for Tribe Plus. It's a kind of a pay-as-you-go thing, but it helps support this operation, right? Keeps it going, right? It's 49 cents a day to join up, but then you have access to all the information that's put up there behind the paywall, right? So like our fencing class, our pig castration class, our pastured poultry class, our hog butchering class, all that stuff, you have access to that. And it's a great deal. And it helps us keep this operation going or ministry going, because this is service to the community, right? We do need to know how to do these things. America 2.0 is going to be different than America post baby boom. It's not going to be so easy, right? All right. I think we have to increase our sense of urgency on this. Pay now, or are you going to pay later? All right. I'm going to get going. I'm going to end the stream. Thanks for coming. Remember, anyone can farm. Good night.